Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to talk about why pharmaceutical professionals are investing in upskilling at the moment. I'm just going to wait for everybody to join. So we're going to give it a couple of minutes like we normally do, and then we'll start. If you don't know me already, Paul Pharma. I've been in pharmaceutical manufacturing and supply for 40 years, 4 decades. Can you imagine that? 4 decades doing the same thing. But if I was doing the same thing, I probably wouldn't be still here. But I've had such a wide variety of experience throughout my career. I started in microbiology, was in the lab, on the bench, started from the practical experience of, actually it was emptying the waste after sterilization was the first job, I think. And I moved on. But interestingly, when people ask me why I was doing such a thorough job, well, my answer, of course, was, well, if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing properly. And those in the lab that had asked me that 10 years later were still in the lab and had moved on to QC analytical. But in the meantime, I'd done all the jobs in the lab. I'd done the validation of test methods. I'd done validation of steam sterilization, gamma sterilization, ethylene oxide sterilization. Of course, I've done the analysis of products in different formats. I've done the preservative efficacy testing, which I quite enjoyed. And the reason I enjoyed it was because I could tell them before they even did the test whether the formulation that they'd chosen was going to work or not. I was in there for 6 years, so I had plenty of experience. But why pharmaceuticals professionals are investing in skills now relates directly to my own experience. I always volunteered for something new. Whenever there was an opportunity to learn something else, that's what I did. I went out and I did the environmental monitoring. I went and did overtime to find out about manufacturing. I went and did the extra work, basically, that people were trying not to do for whatever reason. But that wasn't my approach, and it never has been. I do believe in lifelong continuous learning. It's for me. Oh, my tie does look really weird on this. Sorry about that. It's a different tie to the chart, but clearly the camera picks it up a bit differently to the way I was looking at it in the mirror. Okay, why pharmaceutical professionals are investing in skills now is the topic for today. I'm a pharmaceutical consultant. I have been now for 15 years. I run my own consultancy. I'm a qualified person, named on a few licenses. I think I've got one spare at the moment if you want one. In the UK, I'm named, because they limit it to 5. I'm named on a EU license, which is linked directly to the same company for a UK license. So I can do both ends, EU and UK. I'm an auditor, been auditing since 1997. 97, I started my training. 98, I was doing them alone. Done subcontract manufacture, done quality control, done strategic work, validation, of course, we mentioned already. But now I focus more on training and development, helping people get the skills that they need, but also how to fix the problems. Because often I find, even though they're going to get the training and the skills, they need the experience to implement. And that's what I like doing, because I've been doing it for a long time, 40 years, as I mentioned. But why are professionals investing in skills now? Well, the industry is evolving faster than ever. Experience alone is no longer enough to stay competitive. As things change, we need to learn. Like I said, I've been doing lifelong learning throughout my whole career. And that's what you should do too, in my opinion. If you think about how many times things have changed in the time you've been working, and then think about how many times it's likely to change over the next, how many years are you going to be working? 10, 20, 30, 40 years? They do say that the people that started now are going to have 4 or 5 careers, 4 or 5 different focused skill sets, I would say, is probably better than careers. Because it's one career for one person, really, isn't it? So it's really important that we keep up to date with what's happening now, but also to learn more, so that we can be valuable, so that we can be relevant. The industry is changing faster than ever. Regulatory pressure, digital disruption. But for me, the core are professionals adapting fast enough to keep pace with the change. Myself personally, I'm learning about AI. I'm learning by using it, by implementing it, by supporting my clients with the implementation of AI, by training them to do next. Why should you use it? And what do you need to be careful about? Because if you do try new technology, and that technology is disrupting the way that you work now, well, how's that going to be useful to your organization? AI, automation, and digital systems are reshaping the way that we do business. They're reshaping the way that manufacturing collects data. They're reshaping operations throughout the whole organization. But my biggest concern is, how does this reshaping actually affect the people? The people are affected by regulatory pressure, by the global regulatory expectations, because they keep increasing. And that's no different for AI. This digital disruption that we're seeing is actually increasing the opportunities for failure. So actually, as the professionals we are, continue to support the business, we have to make sure that we adapt fast enough to keep pace with the change, so that we can advise the other team members, whoever they may be, and make sure they understand what's needed, so that we can support them and the business to deliver the right product at the right time to the right patient. Because otherwise, what's the point? The skills gap is increasing. People come out of industry. No, they come out of university. They've got their qualifications. I remember in microbiology, I remember training the graduates. Now, as I said, I came straight from school. I learned on the job. I was shown how to do the work. I was told, I was trained how to do it, why to do it, what the impact was when it went wrong. People with the technical knowledge came into the team. Technical knowledge is not the same as practical knowledge. I had to train them, to show them how to actually utilize that technical knowledge that they got. They didn't know how to solve a problem. They didn't know what to do when their agar overflowed. They didn't know what to do when there was a lump in the molten agar. They didn't know how to make sure that the meniscus on the contact plates was just right, so that when you rolled it over the surface, it came out and it worked. Instead of, I remember one of the ladies, she put it onto the surface and she'd not put the meniscus big enough. So it actually hit the plastic. So when we were doing the test, there was nothing. And it just didn't work. Regulatory awareness is an interesting one. Things are changing very rapidly around the world. And I find that the regulations tend to be in a lagging position in general from the industry, provided you're keeping aware of what's going up, that you're communicating with the other companies around. Because otherwise you'll find that the regulatory sneaks up on you. Do you remember the contamination control strategy? And they said that when Annex 1 came out, you need to make sure you've got your contamination control strategy. But if you actually look back, it was already a requirement. It wasn't new. It'd been in there for years. But they implemented the update to make sure people actually did it, so that it was easier to audit against. Now, experience. Experience is a massive part of qualification. As I said earlier, I've been in the industry now 40 years, 4 decades. 4 decades of learning from scratch, from the basics, through technical knowledge, regulatory knowledge, but also leading teams. Leading teams is in my opinion, something that's really beneficial to anybody's development of their skill set. Because you'll get feedback. You get positive and you get negative. You'll find that some people want to push you down. But some people want to lead with you, want to come with you. Now, problem solving is easier when you have more knowledge. So experience is essential. It makes it more effective in the implementation and utilization of the skills that you've learned. And then we come to the last one on the effective side. Critical thinking. Now, I didn't know what critical thinking meant for ages. And I was on a training course, of course. I was attending a workshop and he kept saying critical thinking. I said, what do you mean critical thinking? What does it actually mean to me? What difference does it mean to me? Critical thinking. Well, basically, when we talk about critical thinking, it's stopping what you're doing and it's sitting and spending time thinking about an issue. It's thinking about the strategy to move forward. It's thinking about what we're going to do next. But the way that you think about it, you have a structured approach maybe, or you do a brainstorm. But whatever you do, you capture what you're thinking. And you use that data you capture to then structure the way that you're going to move forward to solve the problems. If you don't spend time critical thinking from now and then, then how are you going to actually make things better? How are things going to improve? How are you going to find out the way forward? You can't lead a team if you've not thought about what happened last time you interacted with them. You can't lead a team if you've not solved the problems yourself and understand what they really need to do next. Communication is core to everything. But some people think communication is just talking. What is effective communication? Well, it's a soft skill, isn't it? So what do? Well, you go away on a course. Effective communication skills. I remember mine. Must be around 92, 93. And they talked about what I call now broadcasting. They talked about how to structure the words. They talked about how to use your sentences. They talked about how to present and use the body as well as the voice. How to raise your voice and lower it. And pause to get people listening to you, wondering what's coming next. But for me, effective communication it actually involves 2 people at least. And you want bi-directional. You want them both to interact. So for me, listening is the most important part of communication, not the structure of the sentences you're going to use. Okay, body language is really important, yes. You need to make sure that you've got eye contact. Eye contact for me, what do I say? For me, eye contact shows interest, shows a willingness to converse. Organizations do struggle to find experienced talent. As the technical knowledge becomes more specialized and regulatory complexity expands, people are specializing. If you need somebody that's going to work in your ATMP plant, but all you can find is those that have done tablet manufacturing, is it going to work? There's going to be a massive gap between qualified and effective. Qualified in GMP, well, qualified in the GMP aspects of biotechnology, which It's quite interesting, to be perfectly honest. I like doing things that are interesting, and you should too. Even if they are harder, even if they do take more critical thinking. But the gap between qualified and effective is getting wider. Soft skills are critical. Why? Well, you can do a lot of what you were doing before with AI. But the soft skills are where the people work with people. And that's something that we're starting to forget a little bit. That actually business is about people. It's about patience. It's about understanding each other. It's about having the technical knowledge, leading the team, communicating, solving the problems, and then going for the next strategic approach. So the reason people are upskilling now, professionals are upskilling, is career advancement. Often outside the current organization, but it can be within as well. I spent 14 years training. I did my BSc, I did my MSc, no, not the MBA. The MBA was later. I did my MSc, I did my BSc, I did languages, I did some other postgrad courses within one company. And I advanced each year, which was interesting because my goal was to advance every year, of course. The earning potential increases. And I went into leadership roles quite early on. I went into a leadership roles after 6 years being with the company, when I only qualified, in theory, completed my BSc in 5 years, because I was doing it part-time. But I was working at the same time, getting involved in projects, understanding what was needed next. So my first leadership role, 6 years into the business at 22, was a good one for me. I was happy to do it. And then strategic, when I moved into QA, was even better. But how did I do that? Well, I did my master's. And I applied it within the team. I applied it to the job I was doing. And that was recognized by my behavior, by my implementation of the change of what I'd been upskilled in. Inspection confidence during audits is critical. You need to have the deeper knowledge so that you can actually prepare for an inspection, but more importantly, to pass. I joined one organization. No, I didn't join them, I suppose. I was a consultant for them. So I supported an organization that had failed to get their MIA, manufacturer import authorization, twice already. And I went in and looked, and I thought, well, I won't pass you. Why not? Well, the SOPs didn't reflect what the business was going to do. What they did was somebody had copied them across from another organization. They'd badly designed the layout for the manufacturing facility. They'd got the print room in an inappropriate place. It was open, no restrictions. They just messed it up. So I got them to improve and enhance and change the way that their layout worked. Not change the design because they didn't want to knock it all down. But I changed the way it worked, the controls they had in place, and made sure the pharmaceutical quality system is actually fit for purpose. And that gave us the confidence when we went into inspection that we're going to pass, and we did. Whereas the two previous consultants hadn't thought about it. They just sold the basics. They'd not used deeper knowledge to prepare. Now, when we upskill, when every professional upskills, we are future-proofing our careers because we can broaden the scope of what we can get involved with. Protecting against automation, I would say, is something that we're doing by being more open to additional activities or different activities. AI is going to displace some of the activities, yes, but we have to stay relevant and adaptable. And it won't affect us. Not negatively anyway. It's going to affect us because we'll gain from it. I do believe I already am. Regulations, regulatory pressure. They expect deeper scientific understanding, data integrity, quality risk management as part of decision making. So if you don't do the upskilling, how are you going to get that? You're not. It's really important that you do. Inspectors increasingly assess competence, behavior, and process understanding, not just SOP compliance. Think about it. Are you competent? When they come and look, are you going to be able to explain the details? If they ask you why, can you tell them? Because that's what competence is often about. It's not necessarily just thinking we're doing this because that's what it says in the SOP. It's actually demonstrating that you've got the level of knowledge that makes you competent to fulfill that role, which you'll only get if you do the background work. You do the critical thinking, you upskill, you attend a course, you learn more, but then you apply it, just as I've been doing throughout my whole career for 40 years. Never stop learning, never stop upskilling. I'm still on, I think I'm on 4 courses even now. And one of those, of course, is AI. Actually, I think it's 2. The rise of digital pharma. Now, we've had digitization in pharma for a long time, but we're slow to adapt the new technology. AI is coming into the quality systems, manufacturing, training, regulatory, operations. If you're not going to transform, then you're going to be behind. If you're behind, what's going to happen to your business? You're going to be less profitable than the others. Not less profitable than now, but if somebody else is out competing you, they're going to undercut you. Or they're going to be able to supply more for the same price. Well, it doesn't work. Digital literacy is essential. You need to be competent, understanding the computers, how you can use them, how they can benefit your organization. Professionals who understand technology do gain a significant advantage. I remember I built my first computer. It's not really my first, it was an upgrade. So I bought my first computer when my parents returned the loan that I'd given them to buy the caravan it was. So I built my first computer back in 93. Built it from pieces. Pulled out all the pieces from what somebody was throwing away. From 3 computers, I made 1 computer that was actually better than the 3 individually. But they decided to throw it away. They'd done the upgrade, the recycle. I said, can I take them home? Yeah. So I built my computer, my first tower, from scratch for free. I even got the software for free. But I was learning. I was reading a book and I was trying it out. I was learning about technology, not just using what somebody else had given me. The future, in my opinion, belongs to adaptable learners. And I've done that forever, as long as I can remember. I've always wanted to learn the next best thing. At the moment, I think the most valuable skills in pharma are risk-based thinking. Now, the company I started with back in '86 was extremely risk-averse, but they still did risk analysis. I still learnt the risk assessments back when I was 18, 19, 20. I learnt about leadership and communication. 91, 92, 92, I think it was. The leadership part. I learnt about it before I had to implement it. So maybe it was a bit earlier. Maybe it was the late 80s. And then in 92, I took on my first leadership role as a supervisor. Communication. I remember one specific lesson that I got from communication, which I'm going to share with you now. So I was in the operations meeting. The director of operations was there. All the senior managers were there. And I was there representing QC, I think, as a supervisor. I think I'd only just started the job. And I just told them the truth. Well, it wasn't really accepted very well. I hadn't preempted what I was going to say, telling the manager of the area that it was going to affect. Because, of course, I was giving bad news about the test data on a new process line. It wasn't going to plan. It wasn't getting the output that it was supposed to. But unfortunately, they'd been given the happy path. They'd been given the happy story to the operations director. So me telling them what was actually happening, he took me aside with my manager, and he basically blew up and started shouting. And at the end of it, said, "What am I supposed to do? What do I do if they're not giving me the information I need?" And it was a longer conversation than that, but I did learn that you need to talk to people more. Over communicate is much better than leaving it to the last minute and giving them the bad news right in front of their boss when they've already told him everything's going fine. It's not such a good plan. The why behind GMP, for me, is 10 times more important than being able to quote the regulation. If you don't know why, how are you ever going to be able to implement it appropriately? It just doesn't work like that. For me, why has been a question I've used throughout. Why do we do that? Even before I took my first full-time permanent employment, I worked in the pharmacy. I worked in the dispensary in the pharmacy. And I used to say, well, why do we do this? Why do we do that? Why are they taking this? What's this tablet for? I was full of whys, and I still am. Digital literacy, AI literacy, they are two different things. But navigating and leveraging emerging technologies across pharma operations, across the labs, in the warehouse, even in the lorries, is going to put you ahead of many people in the industry these days. So what are companies really looking for? Well, beyond technical expertise, they want strategic thinkers who can lead, collaborate, and drive continuous improvement. The picture we've got now reminds me of a team that I led back in 97, I think it was. We just purchased a new organization, a new product line, and the company that went with it. Cadexima iodine it was. Pharma was the company. Had we bought them? I think maybe we were collaborating with them because I was out there to set the specs, to define the quality agreement. And I did actually end up going out there as the troubleshooter as well. But the reason this picture reminds me is because we got together as a team and we wanted to implement line extensions. And they were saying, oh, we don't need to do it till this date, so there's no rush. Well, I said, well, what would happen, because we could, what would happen if we brought it in earlier? Oh, well, we'd make more sales and we'd do this and we'd do that. And we brought in an extra 1.5 million of sales from me just asking what would happen if, and thinking strategically to see what the impact would be on the business to make sure it was useful. And I led that team throughout until we implemented and did launch early. Continuous improvement is really important within any business, and it's required in pharmaceuticals. But we also need proactive problem solvers, people that can work across functions. Well, the QP doesn't have a choice. They have to work across all functions to understand what's happening with the product, to demonstrate before releasing it that it's safe for the patient. Quality culture champions is an interesting one. Lead by example, for me, is the best way. So what happens if you don't upskill? Well, your skills become outdated. Technical knowledge that's now is not going to be next year. It's accelerating. It's accelerating faster than ever now. Career progression, well, you'll be stuck. Do you remember the lady in microbiology? I suspect she's still retiring there, even though I've moved on maybe 25, 30 times since. But she was happy to just spend her money. If career progression stalls, advancement slows, vulnerability increases during restructuring. Maybe they've outsourced, I don't know. Become reactive rather than valuable. Something's done to you rather than you having a choice. Professionals fall behind instead of driving change. In pharma, standing still means falling behind as the product life cycle moves on without us. If the product moves on and you don't, where are you going to be? Maybe you'll be going to Tesco. Tesco is a supermarket for those of you that are outside of the UK. The future belongs to lifelong learners. The most successful professionals will be adaptable, curious, forward-thinking. Upskilling is not a luxury, it's career survival. Qualification you got to get into this industry. But now continuous learning keeps you valuable, and the industry rewards those who evolve before they're forced to. I've been evolving throughout my career, and I still am. And I recommend you do too. And if you would like some help, you can contact me. There's the website for our academy. It might not be me specifically that answers your call or email, but it will be one of my team. I'd like to thank you for joining today's session. I hope you do find the LinkedIn Lives useful, interesting. If you do, please do leave a comment and let me know. And anybody of you that's asked a question during, I don't know why today it's not working. Seems like recently that I just have to answer them afterwards. There's probably some setting that I've not got turned on. So I'm just going to give you a minute or so, as I normally do, to get down any information there. academypharmaceuticalexcellence.com, info@academypharmaceuticalexcellence.com. Quite easy. Do connect with me on LinkedIn, because communication, as I said, is important. And the easiest way to contact me at the moment is LinkedIn. So do connect, because I accept all connections. And I do always answer messages too. So if you need some support, I'm here for you. And if you want to upskill, join my academy. And we'll work together for your next career progression. Thank you for coming. I do hope you found the information that I've just shared useful. If there's anything more that you'd like me to add in a future session, please do let me know. Thank you. Can't you see how to take